Welcome back, Trailblazers. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about a tool that has completely transformed the way I plan and navigate my hikes, AllTrails Plus. As the Trailheads Ambassador and the organizer of the Yakima Valley Trekkers, I'm out on the trails a lot. One of my favorite features of AllTrails Plus is the ability to edit and create my own maps. Conditions change, fallen trees, washed out sections, or even a last-minute reroute. And with AllTrails Plus, I can adjust my route on the fly and share it with others so everyone stays informed and safe. AllTrails Plus also gives you offline maps, wrong turn alerts, and 3D trail previews to help you stay on track and make the most of your adventure. And the best part, you can get 30% off an AllTrails Plus membership with my exclusive link in the episode show notes. So whether you're planning your next big trek or just looking for a new trail to explore, AllTrails Plus has you covered. Check it out and let's hit the trail. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey, connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the United States and beyond. Throughout these spring months, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In this week's episode, we're joined by Emily, an Arizona-based adventurer and the voice behind Little Red Travels, whose hiking journey began with a single visit to a national park and turned into a life built around nature, reflection, and soulful storytelling. From the Superstition Mountains to Yosemite's towering cliffs, Emily shares how hiking helps her find spiritual connection and inner calm, even in the heart of Phoenix triple-digit summers. We explore her favorite trails like Weaver's Needle and the Wave Cave, plus her trail rituals and her mission to make the outdoors feel accessible, authentic, and intentional. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Emily. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I have a really exciting guest with me today. She's currently based out of Arizona, and she's going to be sharing about her adventures across the Southwest and West Coast. Emily, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So right now I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is part of the Phoenix Valley. But I grew up in Prescott, Arizona, which is about 2 hours north of here. And it's a small mountain town. And, when I was about 7, we moved to Prescott. But before that, I was from an even smaller mountain town of only 500 people. So I pretty much have always grown up outside in the mud, hiking, climbing trees, that type of thing.
Oh, and I'm glad that you're from Prescott, because when I first moved to Tempe, I was calling it Prescott, and I was quickly corrected that it was Prescott. And it actually has one of my favorite water-related hikes. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name, but it's not too far from downtown Prescott, and it's a beautiful lake with these just rocks all over the place. What's the name of it?
Watson Lake and Willow Lake. Apparently, there's no other rock formation like them in the world.
Yeah, they kind of just pop out of nowhere compared to the surrounding scenery.
They do. Yeah, it's beautiful.
For you, what originally drew you to hiking, and how did that passion evolve into creating travel guides and content?
So kind of always been outside, and I love being outside. I grew up outside. But what really made the difference is last year I visited Yosemite National Park for the first time, and it was unreal. It was, to really put it frankly, truly a spiritual kind of experience. I mean, you can just feel the energy, and it was so fun. And for me, being remote and being out in nature is so closely tied with spirituality for me. It's almost impossible not to feel the vastness of the earth and the presence of your higher self, the Holy Spirit of the universe, whatever you may call it. There's nothing that quite speaks to the soul like nature can. When I was out there, I just never wanted to leave. So on the drive back, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I want to do this all the time, as much as I can, if I could just live remote and do this. So I started brainstorming on the way back from that. It was a 12-hour drive back, how I could start doing something. And that's where I got the idea to do my blog and the Instagram. And I'm hopefully going to be traveling full time as soon as October. It could be as late as April of next year. I just want to experience everything, not just Yosemite National Park. And then as far as the travel guides, even though I'm a weekend warrior at this point, every time I come back, without fail, I'm centered, I'm calm, and I'm so grateful. And I can carry that positive energy with me through the week. And that energy creates a ripple effect because energy can't be destroyed, only transferred. So it affects those around me in a positive way. And that's what I think the meaning of life is, to experience everything that life has to offer, the good and the bad, and spread more infectious positive energy into the world. So I wanted to create travel guides so others can experience what I have, not just the action of reaching the summit, the physical feat, sense of accomplishment, which are all great things, but the emotion of experiencing it and putting into words exactly what that emotional experience is difficult, and it's different for everyone.
I came across your Instagram profile at the right time because I was planning a big trip to New Zealand, and a similar content creator had been posting these travel guides. And, for a long time, I think there's been the stigma about gatekeeping some of these beautiful locations. But I love the fact that people are starting to share these travel guides because for me, at least, I still researched, but all those hours of trying to research separate things, somebody already had done the research and was like, these are some of the highlights that you should check out. And then you can choose from those. I found it really rewarding. And the fact that, you are sharing your experiences so people can have a similar experience is really great. And your travel guides are super helpful. And just getting back to what you were saying about Yosemite, I forgot the exact quote that John Muir had said about Yosemite, but he said it was one of nature's best cathedrals.
Yeah. And I agree with you. There has been a lot of, should I gatekeep this or should I share? And I personally believe that, yes, the popular trails might get a little bit more busy. And that's why we have to spread, leave no trace. But also everybody deserves to experience the greatness of the earth. That's why I'll never gatekeep. I want everybody to experience it. And as long as we take care of it, there shouldn't be an issue.
100% agree. And, the other thing that caught my attention, Emily, is you were showcasing some of my favorite hikes in and around Maricopa County and, just Arizona in general. Having explored so many trails, especially around Phoenix, if someone only had one day in the valley outside of the summer, what hike would you absolutely insist that they do?
If they are physically fit and up for the challenge, I would absolutely recommend. It's actually technically the Bluff Springs Loop, but it's part of the Peralta Trail, and you would want to go counterclockwise on that loop, because if you go counterclockwise, you're going to be walking on the ridge of the mountain and then you'll come down through the canyon. Whereas the other way, you would be going up the canyon. And since you're in, the valley of the canyon, you don't get as great as views going up. So if you want to go the other way, but man, right when you start hiking, 10 minutes, you have views 360 because you're on a mountain. You can see over one side of the mountain and over on the other. And it's almost like you're in another world because large boulders, there's not a lot of vegetation on that side of the mountain. And then, of course, you get to see Weaver's Needle at the very end. And then when you're coming through the canyon, you have all the vegetation, the greenery. It completely changes. You almost get, 4 different hikes in one hike, but it is a difficult one. So if they're not up for a hard one, I would definitely recommend Lost Dutchman State Park. It's also part of the Superstitious Mountains, and they have an easy trail there, Treasure Trail Loop. But you just get incredible views of the mountain range the whole time you're going up. And it's not that much of an elevation gain. If I recall, it'll maybe take an hour and a half for that whole hike. And at sunset, it's just so gorgeous.
Lost Dutchman was one of my favorite state parks, especially being so close to the valley. We were talking before we started recording about, have you hit the triple digits there in the valley? And I've shared this on previous episodes, but when I was living there during the pandemic, I did find it a little challenging to get outside, at least in the valley during the summer months when it was, 105, 110. And I'm always curious to ask people that have grown up in Arizona how they stay connected with nature during those months where, hiking, you either got to do it early morning or at sunset and not necessarily during the day.
Exactly. I have been hiking in 72-degree weather, but that heat just radiates up from the ground and it is much hotter and it's so dry. You'll be dehydrated so quick. So what I do when it gets to be too hot is I take day trips. People don't realize, but just 2 hours, not a long drive from Phoenix. You can be in Prescott, Payson, Flagstaff is only 3 hours, and they're all so different from each other. Pine Top is one of my favorite places to escape to in the summer. They have mild temperatures all year and it's not a bad drive. You take the 7 17, cruise control. And then it's a day trip there and back in one day. And I do that almost every weekend. And my mom still lives in Prescott. So sometimes in the summer, I'll go and I'll stay a whole week with her. Otherwise, if you were going to try to stay in the valley, you have to be in some sort of body of water. If you wanted to go to Canyon Lake, Lake Pleasant, Saguaro Lake, the Salt River, something like that, if you wanted to get outdoors, and then just always have your water with you at all times.
Definitely. You mentioned Weaver's Needle, and that to me is one of the bucket list hikes that I still hope to do next time I get a chance to visit Arizona. It's so iconic. I always remember looking for it on the drive up to Payson to escape the heat. How was it visiting Weaver's Needle and experience it so close compared to, seeing it from a distance?
It's really amazing, because it is just an incredible rock formation. But what I thought is even more interesting is there's a tree, it's called Lone Tree, and it's right there by Weaver's Needle. And it's just a lone tree all by itself, no other trees around. And it's so interesting to me how it can survive out there when no other trees do. And it's there with Weaver's Needle. It's almost like they're looking at each other. And that's what I thought was just kind of incredible. But the Weaver's Needle itself, I mean, I'm not sure if you've heard the folklore around the gold mine that is supposedly in the shadow of Weaver's Needle that's, might be protected. All the missing people tried to go looking for the gold there. So if you try to go looking for the gold, a lot of people have gone missing over the years, and they believe maybe there's still a remote Apache tribe that protects it, or, we just don't know. But there have been multiple cases of people going missing in the Superstitious Mountains.
Is the legend kind of like a certain day of the year where the shadow of Weaver's Needle lies is where the location of the gold mine is?
I don't know if it's a specific type of the year, but there was, they call him the Lost Dutchman. It was Jacob Walls, and he's the one who apparently had discovered the gold mine and then told one person, I think, but then no one really knew where the location was. And so various people have gone out, and there have been mysterious, skeletons found and that type of thing back then. I believe this was back in the 1800s when this happened. But even as recently, there actually were, unfortunately, some hikers that went missing in 2010 from Utah, 4 of them in the Superstitious Mountains. So they say, you should never go hiking alone in the Superstitions.
Yeah, I always was told that too, especially when I first moved there, that either have a satellite communicator or have some sort of way to communicate with your friends and family and let them know where you're at.
Exactly. Because, there are rattlesnakes too. It's prime rattlesnake season. If you get bit, you want to get out of there pretty quickly. So
That's right. Now, Emily, you shared that you traveled to California and visited Yosemite, and through your feed, I know that you visited other states surrounding Arizona. I think your goal in the future is to continue to explore what our Earth has to offer as far as natural beauty. If you could move anywhere to hike full time, is there a specific location that you have in mind right now?
Yeah, we're very interested. We love Colorado. We just absolutely love Colorado because it's just emulates everything that I'm about, outdoors and biking and physical activity and the weather. I got to have sunny days. Coming from Arizona, I can't move somewhere that doesn't have a lot of sunny days annually. So Colorado would definitely be an option. But also I've been very interested in Idaho, southern Idaho around the Boise area. It doesn't get too much snow, which I've heard they actually cannot get that much snow around that area because then, you're right next to Banff, you're right next to Yellowstone, Mount Rainier, the Tetons. You're right there. That's the mecca for hiking. I would love to live right there because I think, it's only 8 hours to Banff, depending on where you are.
I think Colorado is definitely like the mecca for outdoor recreation because I think it has a little bit of everything, not just the Rocky Mountains, but you have the high desert. I feel like you can find recreational activities all 4 seasons, but Idaho is definitely I feel the underrated gem. Yeah, I've heard great things about the Boise area and that section of Idaho. And like you said, it's centrally located and you can go in any direction and hit Majestic National Park or even just a public lands that's just, out of this world.
Yeah, exactly. And they have lots of lakes and they have mountains. And you're not that far to the coast if you really want to go to the coast of Oregon. So that I've never been. So I'd love to visit and see if that's somewhere where I would like to settle. But I would like to settle in a small town wherever I'm at because I'm from a small town I just like them.
One thing that we noticed is that you like to visit Summit County every year, and that's in Colorado. What specifically about Summit County keeps drawing you back each year?
Well, we're really fortunate because my fiance's family has a family friend that has a condo in Dillon, Colorado. And so we're lucky enough to go every year. They let us use their condo for a week. I'm just so grateful for that. But so we actually stay in Dillon, but, we visit Frisco, Silverton, Breckenridge, and we love doing that because we're right on Dillon Lake. There's a big lake right in Dillon. So we ride our bikes and hike, and it's amazing.
Kind of going back to your content creation, one thing that I think you do well, especially with your reels, is you really capture the moment that you were experiencing at the time of filming. And I think you once said that you want your content to make people feel the way it was to experience it. How do you personally go about capturing those feelings authentically?
Try to showcase, what I'm seeing, how I'm seeing it. There's so many times, I've seen a hike on Instagram and I do it and they missed so much and it looks completely different in person. I'm like, how did they not get this and this and this? If I would have known that all this was here, I would have come here much sooner, and music is a big part of that because I think music also really speaks to the soul and it can kind of convey emotion. And so I try to pick the music that kind of conveys the emotion that I was feeling in that time as well. But really, I just want to do whatever I'm looking at justice as much as I can. If it's Yosemite, which was super easy to do it justice, but I just want to paint it in its perfect light.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned music because I feel like with other folks that post regularly on Instagram, the editing portion of the reel or the video is the easy part, but sometimes it takes me twice as long, if not 3 times as long, to find the right song.
Yeah, it has to fit the emotion, right?
Now, you have an incredible website, and I recommend our listeners to go check it out. With so many hikes under your belt, how do you decide which ones deserve a full guide on your blog?
I think really the ones that are just really incredible, the ones that I go above and beyond, just the let's get out and hike, kind of thing. And, I think just divine inspiration, whatever comes to mind. If I have a lot to say about a certain hike, then I'll choose that one. My page isn't even a year old yet, but I have a lot of plans. I hope to do cities as well, because if someone is flying in to Phoenix to hike, they might also be in the city and want somewhere to eat or that type of thing. Or even, not hikes necessarily, but just things to see in Arizona. Like you can go to the Grand Canyon, other types of things that you can do that don't require a lot of walking or hiking.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of people, when they think of Arizona, they think of the desert. They don't necessarily picture places like Flagstaff or even down in Tucson or the White Mountains. And, one great thing that you're able to showcase is you were able to go visit Arizona Ski Bowl up in Flagstaff. And was it snowboarding that you were doing or were you skiing?
I was attempting to ski, yeah. I've gone a few times, but I can make it down the mountain, but I wouldn't even say I'm very intermediate at this point.
How is visiting Ski Bowl? Because I never got a chance to visit it during the winter months, but how is it going up there and doing some skiing?
Yeah, well, it's Arizona Snow Bowl in Flagstaff. It's a steep mountain. So I actually learned there's a different ski resort called Sunrise Ski Resort in Pine Top. And that one's actually my favorite. It's on the reservation. It's much less busy. They don't groom a lot of the runs, which is why it might be less busy, but it's much easier to learn on that mountain. And if you go at a certain time of the week, you can have the whole mountain to yourself. We did at one point when we were doing that. And then, like I said, I love Pine Top because it's just so remote. And so I love that ski resort as well. But yeah, Snow Bowl is very steep. And as a beginner, there might be some tears if you're trying to learn.
Outside of Flagstaff, I think one place in Arizona that really has exploded over the last decade is Sedona. And you've been able to visit some of the popular trails as well as some of the hidden ones. Is there a specific post or guide that you're especially proud of, whether it's Sedona, Phoenix, Flagstaff?
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of the Sedona one, purely just because I've done quite a bit of hiking there. So I've done most of the popular trails there. And I can give you my honest opinion if they're worth the hype or not, because let's be honest, some are not because they're busy. The parking can be a nightmare. And there's so many other ones you could do. If I do a trail, I'm going to be honest about whether or not I liked it and whether or not I would do it again. Sedona, purely just because I've done a lot of hiking up there, I would say I'm really proud of that post.
And then, one adventure buddy that comes up on your feed is your pup who goes on some of these adventurous hikes. What's it been hiking with your dog on some of these trails?
Oh, she's great. We can walk her off leash and that type of thing. She's really low key, low maintenance. The only thing with her is because she's half husky, half lab. And so when it gets hot here, I mean, even 80-degree weather, we can't really take her on the hikes anymore. She kind of has almost like a double coat. And she's a larger dog, so she can jump on the rocks pretty well. She's very fit because we walk her, probably 3 times a day. But yeah, she does great. She's the best companion.
Yeah, so that brings up the next question because, huskies tend to have that thick coat. Outside of the Phoenix area, what are some specific trails that you would recommend for dog owners who are interested in taking their pups out on the trail, especially during the summer months to kind of escape the heat?
There hasn't been any hike that I really wouldn't recommend taking a dog. Well, there are some in the valley here that I wouldn't recommend, but anywhere. I mean, I haven't gone on any hikes that I would say that wouldn't be safe for a dog. We do keep her on a leash when we're walking in the spring, summer because of rattlesnakes. And unfortunately, she's not rattlesnake trained. And I think she's a little bit older, so we can't do the training with her now. I mean, we probably could, but so we keep her on just in case there is a rattlesnake up ahead. And we just keep water with us for her at all times and just monitor how she's doing. If she's panting too much or anything like that, we stop and we go back. But we haven't had that issue at all.
I want to say Arizona was the first place I started seeing dogs kind of carrying their own weight as far as having like a doggy saddlebag with, not just a bowl, but first aid kit. And then it was the first time I ever seen dogs with booties to help them walk on, pavement or cement during those hot months and avoid getting their paws injured. What are some of your go-to essentials or must-have for hiking safety with a dog, especially in the desert or in higher elevations?
Definitely always have that collapsible dog bowl and water for her and the booties if we are hiking because the asphalt is 1.5 times hotter than it is outside. So you should check the asphalt with the back of your hand. And if you can keep it there for 30 seconds, I believe, then it's okay. And if it's not, it's too hot for your dog and they need to wear the booties. But really, it's just water because like I said, you'll get dehydrated very quick because it's very dry here. I mean, anytime I go visit somewhere and I land back in Phoenix, immediately my lips are chapped. And that's just how quickly it happens. So it's really just keeping water with you.
Now, we like to do a segment here on the podcast where we do a deep dive into our guest's Instagram feed and highlight a specific post or reel that captured our attention. One that caught my eye was your visit to the Wave Cave in Gold Canyon. Can you describe this place for folks that haven't had a chance to visit the Wave Cave there in Arizona? And can you walk us through the hike and what it's like climbing up into that cave and seeing those amazing views?
Yeah, of course. So Gold Canyon, it's about an hour from Scottsdale. You have to drive on a dirt road for a little ways, but you should be able to make it. The first time I did it, we were in my friend's Volkswagen GTI. So it's not a rough dirt road, but there is free parking. It's limited. On the way there, you're obviously hiking up to the cave. So you're going to work up a bit of a sweat going up. Nothing too terrible. And then the first time I did this hike, it was really busy. Everybody was on the trail. And the second time I did it, almost no one was on the trail. So can't tell you how busy it normally is. But when you get to the cave, it's actually a huge cave on the inside. And when you're looking out is when you see that wave that you can stand on and take pictures and everyone's taking pictures. But you can sit there and, have your trail snack. And then when you're heading back down, that's when you get all the views of everything because you're coming down and you're not focused on looking at your feet. You're not huffing and puffing. You can just enjoy the views and the cactus and the mountains in the back. It's a gorgeous hike. It's a moderate hike. It's nothing too difficult. I love hikes that have a destination like that, a really cool formation or something. So that one I would definitely recommend.
Now, one thing that I did want to ask you, because you mentioned it earlier on in the podcast, is one of the great ways to escape the heat there in the valley is to find a body of water. I remember one of my favorite things to do was floating the Salt River before it got really hot. There's so many local lakes in and around Maricopa County that you can either kayak or stand-up paddleboard. What are some of your favorite local lakes or bodies of water to go for a refreshing dip or to kayak?
each one has a pro to it, right? So Lake Pleasant, there is a lot more beaches there. So if you don't have a kayak or something, but then Saguaro Lake is gorgeous, but there's not a lot of beach. So you'll need a kayak really to enjoy it. And actually, I have some Amazon products listed on my website at littleredtravels.com. And the kayak that I use is an inflatable kayak, and it's only $75, and it has stood the test of time. I've had it for years, and it's great, really easy to inflate and deflate. That's what I've been using for years. Saguaro Lake is awesome. You got to get there early if you want parking on either the dock side or the beach side. But then if you wanted to drive just 20 minutes further to Canyon Lake, which again doesn't have a lot of beaches, and the beaches that it does have are very rocky, and I wouldn't really recommend. It's very slippery, but that, they all connect to the Salt River. But when I went, I started going up the Salt River, and that's just in the canyons, and there's lots of birds because there's caves. It's just gorgeous. And that's still only about an hour from the Phoenix area. I would eventually like to make it up to Roosevelt Lake, which is further past Canyon Lake. But yeah, to really enjoy the lakes here, you're going to need, a paddleboard or a kayak.
I think a lot of people think of it as a desert, but I was pleasantly surprised on how many bodies of water are in the valley or within a short drive. Like you said, you don't have to travel more than an hour to hit a lot of these places.
Yeah, exactly. Even the Salt River, like you mentioned, there is the Salt River float that you can pay for, and you get a tube and you can float down. Or one time I went and it was closed, so we just parked by the river and played around in the river a little bit. We didn't have anything to float on, and that was still really fun.
Now, that was it for the regular questions. Emily, these last couple questions are questions we like to ask all our guests. The first one is regarding regular hiking routines. I think for a lot of hikers, especially day hikers, we tend to do a summit routine or maybe an end of the hike routine regularly, not necessarily every time, but, frequently. Is there a regular routine that you like to do, whether it's packing a favorite snack or drink, maybe it's enjoying a moment of zen, or maybe it's looking forward to that meal afterward?
Well, I always have a snack on the trail. I actually eat like a carnivore type diet, so it's going to be an avocado and beef jerky. But afterwards, if I'm traveling somewhere, I love to try the local barbecue because that's just, with no sauce, it's just good protein. And, it's fun to try just the local, not the chain barbecue places. So I would say that's kind of a ritual of mine.
And Phoenix is known for some really great barbecue joints. You had to recommend, the top barbecue joint in and around Phoenix. Is there one that you would always say to folks?
Not in the valley, but there is one there in Prescott Valley, Sedona, and also in Cottonwood, and that's Colt Grill. They're my absolute favorite. The whole rack of ribs. They're like sweet, these ribs, and their brisket is just amazing. I haven't found a barbecue place that tops that in Arizona yet.
Now, this next one is regarding your pack list. Is there a regular luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essential?
I would say that is the avocado because they are awkwardly shaped and they don't come packed. And so that's kind of like the luxury item because they take up a lot of space in your pack, but they're so good. I wouldn't want anything else when I reach the summit than an avocado.
Now, we're almost halfway through 2025, but we still got the summer months ahead of us as well as the fall and winter. Are there any exciting travel or hiking goals for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, well, I'm going to Colorado again in July, and I'm hoping, I don't know if I'm going to make it to Telluride. I would love that because I'm going to drive this year instead of fly. And so I'm hoping on the way back, I could stop in Telluride for a couple days because there is just some iconic hikes there. So I'm hoping to do that in 2025.
And looking forward to seeing where 2025 takes you this year, Emily. Definitely, if you have a chance, listeners, check out Emily's Instagram as well as her website to see some of the amazing places that she's been able to share with the community. Emily, this last section of the podcast is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 10 hiking related topics, and you just choose which one you prefer out of the two. You're more than welcome to say both or neither. So the first one is, do you prefer packing trail snacks or trail lunch?
Trail snacks.
And then this one's a tough one because Arizona is known for having both of these, but waterfalls or summits?
Waterfalls.
And then this one is about trail systems. Do you prefer a trail that has switchbacks or would you rather go straight up?
Either is fine with me, I think.
And then our most controversial one, trek poles or freehand?
I freehand, but I could see where the trek poles would come in handy when you're going downhill to help your knees.
And then This next one's about your footwear. Do you wear traditional hiking boots or trail runners?
I wear hiking boots. I'm too clumsy. I'd probably kick a rock or something.
And then another trail system question. Do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
Oh, loop trail for sure, because then you get to see more, not just the same thing that you saw.
This one's new for season 10. Group hikes or solo adventures?
Group hikes. I love people, and that just makes the experience even better.
And then these next two are the toughest. And I will say, probably for Arizona folks, this is one of the tougher ones. But sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
Sunset. I don't wake up early that much.
And I will say, to this day, Arizona has some of the best sunsets in the world.
Yes, nothing like a desert sunset.
And then maybe folks don't know this, but Arizona has both of these in spectacular fashion. But if you had to choose, would you choose spring wildflowers or fall colors?
That's a tough one, but I'd probably pick the spring flowers because when we get that super bloom down here some years, it's just amazing because you don't expect the desert to have all these flowers.
Yeah, and that's where I think I caught myself, adding another 2-3 hours to hikes because I'm just taking hundreds of photos of these same flowers, especially when the cactus blooms are going. It's something else.
Yes, it really is.
And now this last one, Emily, is do you prefer the short and scenic hikes or faster and challenging?
Both. I like the challenging, though. I like to get a little bit of a workout when I'm hiking.
Well, that was it, Emily, for the this or that questions. For folks that want to follow your journey along on social media as well as online, where are some of the best places they can find you at?
Yeah, they can find me on my blog at littleredtravels.com, or they can follow me on Instagram, and it's littleredtravels_.
And we'll be sure to share both of those in the episode show notes so people can check it out. Emily, it has been a blast talking with you, especially getting to reminisce about Arizona. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I look forward to what 2025 has to bring for you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Emily. We extend our heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Be sure to follow her on Instagram at littleredtravels_ and check out the episode show notes to learn more. New episodes will be dropping every Monday this spring, with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on these thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to check out our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade. It's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, ursaminoutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, ursaminoutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.